The Wolf of Wall Street scam explained he lied about $1 stocks, made hundreds of millions, and only served 22 months in jail. Then Hollywood turned his crimes into a 3-hour blockbuster that made him even richer. This is the story of Jordan Belfort, the man who scammed America, walked away laughing, and somehow convinced us all to cheer for him. And the wildest part? He's still selling. The product just changed from stocks to motivational speeches. Welcome to the greatest con of all time, where the criminal became the celebrity, and the victims are still waiting for their money. Bayside, Queens, 19s, a working-class Jewish neighborhood where dreams were modest. Kids grew up to become teachers, plumbers, maybe doctors if you were lucky. But one kid, Jordan Belfort, had no interest in limits. At 16 years old, while most teenagers worried about acne, Jordan was selling Italian ice sauce on the beach. And he wasn't just selling them, he was marketing them. By summer's end, he'd made $20,000, more than what most adults in his neighborhood made in an entire year. Jordan enrolled in dental school. On the first day, the dean stood up and said, "If you're here to get rich, you're in the wrong profession. Dentistry is about service, not money." Jordan grabbed his bag and walked out of the room. He wasn't there to clean teeth. He was there to get rich, and this clearly wasn't the path. Next stop, meat. After dropping out of dental school, Jordan launched a door-to-door meat and seafood business. Yes, you heard that right. Selling frozen steaks in the suburbs. It was messy, occasionally disgusting, but surprisingly successful. Within months, he was moving $100,000 in monthly sales with no trucks, no warehouse, just Jordan hustling door to door. But businesses built on pure hustle with zero infrastructure collapse fast. Deliveries fell behind. Meat spoiled. Customers threatened lawsuits. Within a year, the entire operation went bankrupt. Jordan lost everything. But in the wreckage of that failed meat business, Jordan discovered something that would become his true superpower. The product didn't matter. Steaks, surfboards, penny stocks. It was all the same. You weren't selling a thing. You were selling you, the confidence, the urgency, the dream, and just like that, the salesman was truly born. Jordan didn't need a better product. He needed a better commission structure. Enter Wall Street. In the mid-80s, Jordan landed an entry-level job at L.F. Rothschild, a legitimate Wall Street firm. This was where Jordan got his first real taste of serious money, genuine greed, and raw power. He learned how markets moved, how brokers talked, and most importantly, how they closed deals. Then came October 1987. Black Monday, the worst day in stock market history. Billions evaporated. Firms folded overnight. Jordan was fired, along with thousands of others. But while everyone else was mourning their lost careers, Jordan was analyzing this situation like a chess player spotting an opening. That's when he discovered penny stocks. Garbage that no serious Wall Street broker would touch. Unregulated, illiquid, completely off the radar. But here was the beautiful part, from Jordan's perspective. 50% commissions. Same sales pitch, but 10 times the reward. Jordan picked up the phone and called some unsuspecting guy in Nebraska. "Hello, Mr. Michael. My name is Jordan Belfort, calling from Wall Street. Listen to me very carefully, because I'm about to tell you something that could change your financial future. This company I'm calling about is tiny right now, but it's sitting on a piece of proprietary technology that's going to completely disrupt the entire home entertainment industry. I'm talking about a genuine ground floor opportunity. When the institutional investors find out, boom, we're talking about a minimum 10 times return. You get in right now at $1 per share, and in 6 months, you're not calling me to say thank you. You're calling me from your new beach house in Maui, asking for more opportunities." And just like that, he closed a $4,000 sale with a single phone call. No regulations, no oversight, no consequences. Jordan had found his kingdom, and now he was ready to build a genuine empire. 1980. Jordan Belfort wasn't working alone anymore. Enter Danny Porish, an absolute maniac from Long Island with the charm of a used car salesman. He wasn't from Wall Street, but the man could close deals. Jordan saw something valuable in him: hunger, loyalty, and absolutely no moral boundaries. Together they built something extraordinary, Stratton Oakmont. The name sounded incredibly prestigious, like it had a 100-year legacy. In reality, it was a converted strip mall boiler room with flickering fluorescent lights and exactly zero regulatory oversight. The early recruits weren't experienced analysts. They were bartenders, college dropouts, and neighborhood hustlers. But Jordan didn't want experience. He wanted pure hunger. Then came the systematic training program. Jordan developed what he called straight-line persuasion, a psychological pressure technique designed to transform nervous rookies into high-pressure sales machines. Soon the office developed its own rhythm. Fast, loud, aggressive, and genuinely addictive. Phones never stopped ringing. Neither did the money. But Stratton's real brilliance wasn't just in how aggressively they sold. It was precisely who they sold to. They systematically targeted the forgotten investors of America, the working-class retirees living on fixed incomes, the desperate parents trying to save for their kids' college. Stratton sold them hope, wrapped in manufactured urgency, dressed in completely false certainty, backed by entirely made-up financial projections. At first, it was obscure penny stocks, but once the money really started flowing, the schemes evolved. Now, it wasn't just selling fake companies. It was manipulating real IP. They'd buy up massive blocks of shares at dirt-cheap prices before taking a company public. Then they'd turn their sales floor into a coordinated hype machine. Call after call, promise after promise. They flooded the market with completely manufactured excitement, artificially spiked the stock price, and then systematically dumped everything at the peak, leaving thousands of regular investors holding worthless shares. Wall Street calls it a pump-and-dump scheme. But at Stratton Oakmont, they called it just another Tuesday. By the early 90s, the firm had absolutely exploded. Stratton Oakmont wasn't just a brokerage firm anymore. It was a full-blown carnival. The office became a blur of screaming phones, air horns blasting, testosterone-fueled aggression, $2,000 custom suits, and enough illegal narcotics to literally kill a rhinoceros. Jordan built an entire system where fear and loyalty were the only currencies that mattered. Top performers were treated like absolute royalty. Massive bonus checks, luxury vacations, even expensive watches tossed across the trading floor like Halloween candy. Underperformers were publicly humiliated and replaced within hours. And then came the legendary parties. Strippers performing in the conference rooms. Champagne literally overflowing into fax machines. Lines of cocaine casually snorted directly off corporate compliance manuals. Jordan Belfort had officially become a cult leader wearing Armani suits. He bought a personal helicopter. He named his luxury yacht Naomi after his wife. He owned multiple mansions, a collection of Lamborghinis, and enough Rolex watches to open his own store. On paper, Stratton Oakmont appeared to be thriving, but underneath that glossy surface, the entire structure was nothing but smoke and mirrors. Because when you fundamentally can't sell the truth, you sell the dream instead. And Jordan Belfort had built a multi-hundred-million-dollar empire doing exactly that. By 1994, Stratton Oakmont was genuinely on fire. But beneath, the foundation was starting to completely rot. The SEC had flagged a rapidly growing list of highly suspicious regulatory filings. Investor complaints were piling up from people who bought stocks at $7 and watched them crash to 30 cents. And while the firm continued growing, so did the complexity of systematically hiding all that money. Millions were being funneled offshore through an elaborate web of shell companies and fake accounts. Jordan called it sophisticated asset protection. The FBI called it textbook money laundering. Inside the firm, the atmosphere was deteriorating rapidly. Drug use became an absolute necessity just to function. Quaaludes slowed their racing speech patterns down. Cocaine sped them right back up. People were passing out during active sales calls. Physical fights broke out constantly, and Jordan himself was unraveling faster than his own firm. In June 1996, against his captain's explicit warnings, Jordan insisted they sail from Italy to Sardinia during a massive Mediterranean storm. The yacht Naomi began taking on water in rough seas. They had to be rescued by the Italian Navy in a dramatic helicopter operation. The yacht was completely destroyed and sank. In New York, the walls were rapidly closing in from every direction. Journalists from Forbes and the Wall Street Journal had begun seriously investigating Stratton Oakmont. But the most dangerous threat of all was Gregory Coleman, a relentless agent with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Coleman didn't just see red flags everywhere. He could smell blood in the water. He quietly began piecing together a comprehensive timeline of Jordan's criminal enterprise. What Jordan didn't know was that some of his most trusted brokers had already flipped and were actively cooperating with federal investigators. They wore FBI wires into the office, secretly recorded phone calls, and turned over entire folders of incriminating documents. Then came October 19. Federal agents from multiple agencies conducted a massive coordinated raid on Stratton Oakmont. Phones were physically ripped from desks mid-call. Filing cabinets were completely emptied. Computer hard drives were copied and seized. It didn't matter anymore. The FBI already had everything they needed to build an airtight case. But Jordan still wasn't done making catastrophically stupid decisions. In early 1997, while actively under federal investigation, he wired $2 million to a Swiss bank account. The transaction was immediately traced. That single arrogant transfer became the thread that systematically unraveled his entire criminal empire. By late 1998, Jordan Belfort was completely out of moves and options. The FBI had the recordings. The SEC had the regulatory filings. He was facing up to 30 years in federal prison on multiple charges. So Jordan did what he'd always done his entire life. He sold. Not stocks this time, but information and his former friends. He flipped, he cooperated fully, and one by one, the people who had worshipped him like a god were systematically handed over. Over 30 Stratton Oakmont employees were indicted. Brokers, partners, childhood friends, some of them ended up serving significantly more prison time than Jordan did. Jordan himself got 22 months in a minimum security federal facility. No razor wire fences, no cells, no violence. He played tennis in the mornings, lifted weights in the afternoons, and at night he wrote his memoir. That's where he met Tommy Chong, the famous comedian, who was serving time for selling bongs online. Jordan told him the entire crazy story. "Write it all down," Tommy said. So Jordan did exactly that. In 2007, he published The Wolf of Wall Street, a memoir that read much more like a victory lap than any kind of confession. No sincere apologies, no visible remorse, no acceptance of responsibility. Just yachts, orgies, fraud, cocaine, and punchlines. The American public absolutely ate it up. He sold the film rights for serious money. And in 2013, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio turned his crimes into a global 3-hour blockbuster that made hundreds of millions at the box office. The same man who systematically lied to thousands of investors for years was now entertaining them on the big screen. Audiences laughed at his antics. Critics applauded the filmmaking, and Jordan Belfort, convicted felon and former fraudster, became a legitimate pop culture icon overnight. But the people he actually scammed didn't get movie deals or book advances. They didn't get closure or justice. Most of them never got their money back. A schoolteacher who lost her entire retirement savings. A war veteran who invested his life's work. A working-class family who remortgaged their home. They were left with crushing debt, broken dreams, and nothing else. The federal court ordered Jordan to pay $110 million in restitution to his victims. To this day, more than 2 decades later, only a small fraction has actually been paid. The rest mysteriously vanished into offshore accounts, complex real estate trusts, and convenient legal loopholes. He publicly claims he's working on it. The victims are still waiting. But Jordan, he's doing absolutely fine. Better than fine. Actually, he's now a highly paid motivational speaker, a sales coach, podcast host, and business consultant. He sells success seminars, teaches sales ethics ironically, and books stages around the entire world. He wears the nickname The Wolf, like it's a badge of honor and a brand, not the permanent scar it absolutely should be. He didn't just escape justice, he monetized it brilliantly. He turned 22 months in minimum security into a $1 million book deal. He turned fraud and crime into fame and fortune. And maybe the scariest part of this entire story is that we all applauded. We bought the books, watched the movie, and paid for the speeches. I was guilty of being greedy, he once said in an interview, but so is everybody else in America. Maybe that's exactly why he got away with it so completely. Because deep down, we never actually wanted him punished. We wanted to be him. We wanted the yacht, the mansion, the Lamborghini, the rush of making millions. We just didn't want the consequences. And Jordan Belfort proved you could have it all. The crime, the money, the fame, and walk away laughing. That's the real scam. Not the stocks he sold, but the story he's still selling today. Jordan Belfort turned crime into a career, and we made him rich doing it. Terrell scum, we made him rich again. Subscribe for more true crime and financial scams that changed history. Comment: is Jordan Belfort a criminal or a sales genius? Should he still be paying victims?